understand why monkeypox is suddenly spreading more widely than ever before.
It's been well studied in the African region. We've seen a few cases in Europe over the last 5 years, just in travelers, but this is the first time we're seeing cases across many countries at the same time in people who have not traveled to the endemic regions in Africa.
Endemic in parts of Central and West Africa, in the past it was generally confined to isolated cases outside that region. Now, with evidence of community transmission via close bodily contact across many countries, they'll be investigating whether the virus has become more transmissible.
The question is whether it will develop like previous monkeypox outbreaks. We must take into consideration that the way the virus spreads could mean it changed, so we must react quickly and decisively now to contain a global outbreak.
The symptoms are generally mild, if unsightly, and often clear up on their own, but there are higher risk groups among the young and immunocompromised. So the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control is warning member states to gear up for possible vaccine distribution, using remaining supplies of the vaccine that helped eradicate smallpox in the 1980s. Beyond concern, however, no one is signalling alarm.
For the broader population, the likelihood of spread is very low. However, the likelihood of further spread of the virus through close contact, for example, during sexual activities among persons with multiple sexual partners, is considered to be high.
In a world still racked by the COVID-19 pandemic, societies have an advanced understanding of viral spread and protection. Testing, contact tracing, self-isolation and basic hygiene are household concepts. So containing a disease like monkeypox should be relatively easy. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera.
Hi, I'm Femi OK. Today on the stream, I am starting with a beautiful vision, an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the global arena. That is how the African Union, a pan-African organisation, describes itself. Originally set up to supply African solutions for African challenges, to create a more peaceful continent and one that is richer as well. That is the mission. But how is the AU delivering? That is the conversation that we're about to have on Twitter or on YouTube. You can join in. The African Union's finest moments, the African Union's worst moments, what you think the African Union could do better. Your suggestions, your ideas, pop them right here on YouTube and be part of today's show.
Across the African continent today, there are many reasons for African states to believe they no longer need the African Union. This comes on the heels of the recent military coups that have taken place in West Africa, whereas the African Union has simply responded through statements of condemnation. On the other hand, the African Union still remains very relevant, particularly given the fact that across the continent, there is an unequal distribution of power relations, whereby there are regional hegemons across the continent who have a tendency to exert their own will and influence as well as interests above those of others. And so the African Union serves as a regulatory body in this regard.
So this week, Africans around the continent will be celebrating African Unity Day. It really is the day where Africans mark the idea that they have an organisation that is a pan-African organisation. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that and how the AU is doing. Hello, Boholo. Hello, Ibrahim. So good to have you, two young Africans, wise and ready to talk to us. Boholo, please introduce yourself to our audience. Welcome back to the stream.
Thank you very much, Femi. It's such a pleasure to be able to join you today. As you introduced me, my name is Boholo Kenwendo, and I'm from Botswana. I'm an economist and a development professional and the former Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry here in Botswana.
Good to have you. Ibrahim, lovely to have you on the stream. Please greet our international audience.
Thanks for having me, Femi, and thanks for joining the call, Bukolo. My name is Ibrahim Babatunde Anoba, and I am originally from Lagos. I work for an organization called the Atlas Network in Washington, D.C., where we work along public policy organization, think tanks, that try to solve problems mitigating prosperity on the continent of Africa. Thank you.
All right, lovely to have you. All right, guests, I do not want you to hesitate. The first thing that comes into your mind when I say African Union, Ibrahim.
You see, it's so great that we're having this conversation right now. I mean, it's been 59 years since the Organization of African Unity was founded. And whenever I come across the organization, the African Union, or when I'm actually reading my history books on Pan-Africanism, what actually comes to mind is the ideas that you read of when you consult the founding days of the African Union or the OAU. I mean, this, to a large extent, was created by the Ghanaian Labour Union, the CPP in Ghana, and Kwame Nkrumah, who organized in 1958, All African People's Congress. And when you read conversation in that convention, the aspiration was so high. They wanted an Africa that we unite the continent, that we speak together in terms of economic potential, economic prosperity, that we come together to secure collectively the continent's security. And 59 years fast forward, you look at the African Union that we have now, I kind of question how far have we been able to actualize those hopes by those set of 58. So it's a big conversation, and I'm glad to be on it.
Boholo, when I say African Union, the first thing that comes into your mind, no filter, is what?
Unity, common purpose, bureaucracy, lack of implementation, hope, Africa rising. So it's a mixed bag, really, for me, because I believe in what the AU was created for, and I believe in what the AU can be. And I believe that we all have a role to play in creating what it should be. And so when I think about it, I think of its failures, I think of its successes, but most importantly, I just think of the Africa that I want, and I know that everybody else wants, and what role that the AU can play in. And that's why the mixed bag that I gave you really jumps up to me.
Yeah, I should say that there is a difference between the African Union and the African Union Commission. The African Union is, you know, the heads of state that we all see standing there, taking the class photograph from whatever meeting they're at. We often think of the African Union as those heads of state, incredibly powerful people. They may well be, but who implements the policy of the African Union is the African Union Commission. So bureaucrats do that work. Sometimes we mix up those two things. I know Ibrahim, I know Boholo, you do not. But our audience may well think, well, these are heads of state, they can do whatever they want. But behind them, there is bureaucracy, and that makes a difference. I want to start sort of in a place that we don't usually start when we talk about the African Union, finest moments. For me, I'm thinking about the reaction to COVID, the pandemic, and how this incredible union got together and fought for Africans. Boholo, pick up from there.
You know, I think there's actually something to be said about what you just mentioned before of the African Union versus the AUC versus other institutions under the AUC. And I think that clarity needs to be given, because it's not just the heads of states, there's also the technocratic part that doesn't have as full an autonomy, as one would think. So we could compare the AUC maybe to the UN or to the regional economic blocs, SADC, ECOWAS, and so forth, and really try to understand the kind of power and authority that they truly have in implementing the things that are being discussed at the AU. So it goes beyond the heads of states meeting. Once there are some recommendations that come out of the AU, and then the AUC tries to implement, they are not necessarily the implementing body.
Yeah, this is probably why people get disappointed. But I want to go back to my finest moment for the African Union was quite a recent one, which was the reaction to COVID. What is your finest moment for the African Union? Because there's lots to critique about, but let's start with the positive.
You know, I think you took away from me because being able to really secure over 1 billion COVID vaccines was top of the list for me. And the way that the AU managed to really gather and rally around this COVID vaccine response is absolutely shows what collective responsibility and collective association can do towards facilitating delivery of key services to the populace. Then in addition to that, for me, there's also the AFCFTA, so the African Continental Free Trade Area. For me, that is a big milestone, having countries ratifying, agreeing to increasing trade within the African continent, ensuring that once fully implemented, it becomes the largest trading bloc in the world, and being able to create millions of jobs and adding to GDP, not only in Africa, but to the rest of the world. For me, that in itself, giving pieces of autonomy to what's this agreement is one of the high achievements of the AU to date. And I believe that there is a lot more that we can expect from the AFCFTA.
I should mention, Ibrahim, that we were expected to be joined by a vibrant young member of the African Union, but the bureaucracy has got the better of us. We are still waiting for this vibrant young member of the African Union to get clearance to be on this show. I am guessing the clearance will not come in time. But talking about young people, bring this YouTube comment to you. This is for Shivance. He says the African Union can do a better job of including the new generation of Africans and leave it to smaller bodies. What do you think about that, the idea of young people actually having a voice? Because our African continent is full of young people. Ibrahim.
Exactly, Femi. This is one of the examples of how the African Union is not to a large extent reflective of what the continent looks like. I mean, Africa's population, majority of us are women, and a vast, significant portion of our population demographic are people below the age of 35. But you look at the African Union, you look at people adding things, so that people that are supposed to be giving us advice on how to go about our economic and social life. I mean, these are people below the age of 65. And it's so strong that if you do not live a people's reality, you do not, live with them every day. You're not in the same...
Why is that, Ibrahim? I'm going to show some pictures of the last African Union big meeting in February. Tell me what you noticed when we showed these pictures. Keep going, Ibrahim. I'm going to show you the pictures.
Exactly.
What do you see there?
See, these are just like, men who have been in power for God knows how long. They've lived a significant portion of their life being privileged. Yeah, so many men. You can count the women there. I mean, so those are the two key questions. Do we have an African Union that looks like us, that represent the youth, that represent women, that represent minority communities, not just, old men and, with privileged history? We really have to exclude the African Union from this masculine